moving on to a big story, really. A police watchdog has found evidence of, quote, disgraceful bullying, misogyny, discrimination and sexual harassment within the Metropolitan Police, especially those based at Charing Cross Police Station. The Independent Office for Police Conduct found messages exchanged between officers that were racist, violent and highly sexualised, with references to rape and spiking women.
I mean, this is awful, isn't it? I mean, one WhatsApp group user was nicknamed McRapeyperson because of his reputation for, quote, harassing women. Another group member talked of killing black children and chloroforming women that they fancied. Kevin Hurley was Surrey Police and Crime Commissioner between November 2012 and May 2016. He's also served in the Metropolitan Police, reaching the rank of Detective Chief Superintendent. I mean, Kevin, thank you for joining us. This is just disgusting, isn't it? I mean, look, we've had the whole Sarah Everard incident, of course, and this Wayne Couzens was nicknamed the rapist, and people knew of this. What is going on?
Well, first off, of course, it's absolutely appalling. Let's get a sense of perspective here. This was in 2016 through to 2018 and was a small little team left without any supervision, any guidance or the correct ethos. Utterly appalling, doesn't surprise me. And to be quite honest, in answer to your question, what is going on? What is going on is the impact of police reform brought in by Theresa May and the current government. And the reason I say that is the result of the various cuts, the changes and reductions in training means that supervision, management, leadership levels are far reduced. These people who did this were part of a team of 120 people with one inspector for all of them and a sergeant on average between 20 if sergeants at work. That means you're going to get some rogues, you're going to get some yobs, and in my experience, they do exist, and I've had to sort them out for not too dissimilar behaviour. What concerns me is this is just, if you like, another boil on an overall problem, which is called the changes of police reform. If you introduce people who can become a sergeant in 18 months under the current scheme, be an inspector instantly, and then put them in charge of large groups of people in a very challenging, dynamic job, they really don't know what they're dealing with. Now, that does not excuse these dreadful conversations between two of them who were quite rightly sacked and one, in fact, prosecuted at court. But the bottom line on it is, if we are going to continue to reduce the offering for potential police officers, reduce the training, reduce the guidance, reduce the coaching and support and supervision, this kind of stuff is still going to go on. So I'm very, very disappointed to see it. It doesn't surprise me. I used to clamp down hard on if I came across the odd incident of this, even when I was in as a chief super in charge of a chunk of West London. But it's a product of what you get when you bring young men and some young women together with the culture that young men have, but then empower them as police officers are without proper guidance, supervision, coaching, and even some checks as to how they're performing. If you haven't got people there and these people are allowed to frankly run loose, it's going to happen.
Well, the problem, though, that I see from all of this is that the very people that the police are trying to encourage to become officers and so on and so forth to join the force seem to be the ones who are the victims of this in terms of within the force itself. So it's women, it's the minorities who've been invited to join the force, it's those people. And you pointed out that it doesn't surprise you, but to me, I'm horrified and shocked that this would even be a possibility, that this could be something that's prevalent within the force of this country. And do you see a way, because you've talked about things that you've seen that have gone wrong, which is why you think we've been drawn down this path, but what can we specifically do then to try and fix this? Because it seems like it is rotten to the core.
Well, it's not prevalent. You know, we are talking about a small team that comes back to 2016 who were relatively unsupervised and not guiding. You know, let's get it in perspective. Sarah Couzens was shocking, one person there, but in fact an elite team of detectives were commended by a judge who said it was the best and fastest inquiry for murder he'd seen in 30 years. So the police service in this country are doing very well still. And as someone who's trained police in Afghanistan and Iraq and Africa, I've seen it everywhere. It is not rotten to the core, but there is a problem, and it's called people interfering and changing the way it was always done. You could not be a sergeant in the Metropolitan Police till you'd been in for 5 years, or an inspector till you'd been in for 10. That meant you were a wise old head. You're an inspector when you're in your late 30s, and you would not allow any of this jobbishness. Similarly, because they don't go through the inculcation of a 20-week residential course like they once did, they don't embrace the value, standards and ethos that we want like they did before.
Okay, yeah. Kevin, we do have to unfortunately leave it there, but we do really appreciate you joining us this morning to give us your insight on that. Kevin Hurley, Surrey Police and Crime Commissioner between 2012 and 2017, and also did serve in the Metropolitan Police.